Make America Great Again's strongest opposition came from those who asked when America was ever great. Yet the myth or lure of a golden age lives on. What is suicide but a condemnation of the present? Suicides do not think things are going to get better. To be so depressed one kills oneself means there is a memory of a better time. There is a sense that one was robbed of something one is entitled to. Why would anyone get depressed if there was no better or worse times? If jail was the same experience as being on a tropical island, your situation would not matter. Even if your spouse left you, your kids hated you, and you had lost your job, what would it matter? Destitution and prosperity would have precisely the same impact. That being said, it is not the environment that is important. A poor family is better than a rich home if money divides the rich family and poverty has united the poor one. This is why people say money is not everything. Money does not buy happiness, but poverty cannot buy it either. Better then to be rich and unhappy than poor and unhappy. Is a harem girl living amidst the wealth of a caliph's palace happier than a Kentucky lass in a wooden shack, surrounded by a loving family? Every issue and question resolve down to the same dynamic. But it is not if we are free or not. Freedom comes in many forms, and prisons are not just about locked doors. Liberals look forward to a time when limits are removed and boundaries are a thing of the past. Liberals are governed by emotion. One of the strongest emotions is fear. Liberals want freedom from fear and will impose draconian laws and autocratic methods to quell sources of fear. But this is contradictory. There is no freedom in or under the law. The best representative of the liberal ideal is the Eastern potentate. Eastern mysticism reflects the ultimate nature of a liberal. Liberals want the liberty of the flesh under the security of the law. The question for a liberal is, does liberty belong to the group or the individual? The golden age of liberalism is linked to the freedom of the group, is why liberals are progressives. When linked to intersectional values, liberalism takes on the persona of fascism. Conservatives believe there was a past age we ought to model the future on. Conservatives, far more than liberals, believe something was lost and needs to be regained. This is a bizarre idea for liberals. They want to destroy the past and all it represents. It is indeed this conflict of the right and left and east and west about the location of the golden age that best explains war. Are we to forge ahead, full speed, or look backwards for instructions on how best to build the future? The pivotal point is ownership. The liberal understanding of the ideal life requires ownership of assets. Freedom, for a liberal, is tied to the absolute control over property. Liberal abortionists think the body is personal property. Liberals believe they have a right to life and liberty and property. Liberal rights are positive, meaning they have a right to things. Conservatives believe they have a right to what they produce, but this is more of a negative right. No one having a right to take what they produced. The liberal is free to pursue and acquire and claim what he wants. If he cannot get it, he still has a right to it. This is where the state steps in and provides liberals with what they feel they are entitled to. Conservatives are not entitled to anything but what they earned. A conservative sense of justice tells him he ought to have a right to what he earns fairly. No one has a right to claim anything another person created. But what does this conservative view of rights do to democracy? Democracy is a political system that gives unlimited power to the majority. The question is who has the right to rule if we have authority over what we create and no rights to anything created by others. If this is true, what role is there for the state? The Golden Age, at least for conservatives, was a time when we still had faith in each other. We did not need the law. There was freedom, not because the law permitted it, but because the law did not need to be factored in. We controlled our destiny as a community. Our rights were social, tied to the jurisdiction in which we were located. Times were hard, but they were hard based on nature, not human intrusions. The market was central to our social experience. If times were hard, they were hard because the market was down. What we produced was less in demand. We were not in control of nature, but we knew what was going on around us, and we could fix the things we made. We were in control of our jurisdictions. In past ages, hard work meant something. We knew we had to produce more of what others wanted if we were to get more of what we wanted. The need to work was a given. Even the smallest boy had it in his mind that one day he would need to go to work as his father and the men he knew worked. They may not have the money to pay for what they wanted, but with everyone working and everyone trying, over time things got better and money became more common. Therein was the problem, because as things got better and the lot of the worker became appreciably better than the beggar, the parasites began to plot and organize. A return to the Golden Age is not, however, going to solve the problem of how it was destroyed. We cannot simply repeat the path that got us to the Golden Age. We are in the spoiled and corrupted carcass of the Golden Age. Rot has set in. The conditions that existed prior to the Golden Age is not the conditions that exist in a post-Golden Age period. Democracy gives everyone access to our community. The people lose control over their borders. Everything one is or wishes to be is open to anything the majority decides. Even constitutions have at best only a delaying effect. Despite all the safeguards and protestations, democracy is and remains a tyranny of the majority. The world of the flesh has no absolute boundaries. There are no limits set in stone. Everything is open to debate, and if open to debate, it can be changed by the vote of a simple majority. Democracy is one step better, but only one step removed from autocratic tyranny. Yet, if the majority is answerable only to a single authority, democracy is in practice just a justification for the tyrant. However, there is no moral or logical argument made to give the state or its proxies jurisdiction over mine or anyone else's creations. The existence of a human does not give that human any rights to wealth they did not create. The rights the state wields is the right of a fascist and nothing more. Legal rights come from the barrel of a gun. They have no other grounds than the threat of physical harm to those who do not comply. Who decides who has merit, who has rights in this world? It is he who has the guns and the greater capacity to harm those who would oppose him. How do we get past this reliance on brute force? How do we render moot and of no effect the doctrine that might makes right and ends justify the means? Over the door of every government in every land ought to be inscribed in deep and indelible form the phrase known as the dual doctrine of power. Might makes right and the end justifies the means. For this is the sole justification for the state's power. But nothing is more offensive or disturbing to a government than to have its subjects adopt this creed as a guiding principle. Citizens must follow the law and conventions while governments run roughshod over every impediment and obstruction to their autocratic authority. Governments are not citizens and subjects are not owners. The entire system of governance that the West has been put under is a scam. The citizen is the creator and owner of his political entity. These jurisdictions are, to all sense and purpose, a church. We do not go to church, we are not in a church, We are the church, but as the church we are a community, and that encompasses a political jurisdiction. The weakness of democracy is how little effort it takes to get people to vote for free coffee. It is a constant struggle to find someone to provide the coffee regularly. Every form of government is, to some degree, timocratic. Those with property always hold the reins of power. Property gives one access to power, and power gives the holder access to property. In a democracy, the only property that one needs to own to have a say in an election is an adult body. But why ought the possession of an adult body give anyone a say in how the resources of the body politic are allocated? Do we allow the one person who did not pitch in to buy a pizza share the pizza? All men are created free and without obligation to others, and are justified without limit, to create and allocate as he or she sees fit, without let or hindrance or obligation, other than not to impose costs onto others. We have no right to claim value created by another or others, and no one has a right to claim anything created by us. This applies to all assets and equity up to and including the natural assets that encompass the world. These are created by God and therefore are the sole concern of Almighty God. All men are created equal with the obligation to create if we would eat. We are known by our works, and our works are the wealth we create. We are under no obligation to create for others, nor do they have an obligation to subsidize us. Wealth is not formed in isolation but by means of trade. We create that which is needed by others. We progress by means of trade. It is by the exercise of demand that value is attached to what is created. Prosperity and progress is the result of specialization. Each one of us makes ourselves useful in a way that reflects our God-given gifts. The Golden Age can be reinstated by means of ecumenicalism. As we come together, we invariably build the church. This can be argued, but it is a fact. If we have the technology that permits unity of purpose, we will be building the church. If we build the church, globalism is defeated. That is the logic of the situation. If you do not know what this entails, you may dispute the claims. If you take the time to learn what ecumenics entails, you will have no basis on which to dispute these assertions.